Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Chakra Way Meditation Podcast and another beautiful guest for you today. So today I'm going to be really interested in talking to this guest. My guest is Sara Byers, and Sara has been a CAO. She is also a poet, a speaker, a guide. Um, I don't know if I dare say coach, but probably along those lines. And I think this podcast is going to be for all the people who have a business, who are entrepreneur, who are trying to make a success, trying to, fight their way through the whatever it is that we have to fight our way through to make ourselves successful, wealthy, um, in business, but also keeping our spiritual side alive and not letting that go. Because I think a lot of people feel that the two are not always meant to go together. And
Mhm.
if you're spiritual, you have to be sackcloth and ashes. And I'm not saying literally, but I think that is a lot of us in the spiritual wellness world. We're like, oh, we're just here to serve. And, the money doesn't mean anything. It does. So Sarah's our girl. So welcome, Sara. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. And thanks for that introduction. Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so true. It defines even me for a long time. So thanks for sharing that truth with all of us.
Yeah, I think, a lot of people when they start on a sort of a spiritual path or, working their way towards some kind of awakening or just an understanding that there is more to life than just, the daily do and routines and, paycheck and bills, that they can't, that they can't take themselves into a different realm. But you have lived experience of the other side. So tell me what have you so I know you're a CEO, you've worked for massive companies, you're hugely successful, you're on the podium speaking to rooms and crowds and full of people. How did you first of all tell me about your CEO journey, like how you got there and then what happened?
Yeah, I know it's so wild. So I actually worked for out of school. I worked for a clothing retail company. So I worked for the Gap and Banana Republic.
Oh wow.
And I worked for them for about 12 years and moved around the country with them and learned a tremendous amount. But then felt this desire to move back to my home state of Vermont in the US, which is really
Oh,
small. Very different. I'd been in, larger cities, et cetera. And I just felt this out of nowhere, and there was no position with the company that was available in Vermont. But my dad had a small pizza business, and I called him up and said, I don't know why I feel this. I visit home every year, but this year I'm crying leaving the airport for no reason. I never thought I would move back to Vermont,
mm.
but I could feel it. It was almost bigger than me. I'm feeling it right now.
Oh wow.
Um, and so he told me I could join the family business, but that I wouldn't have a title, and I would just, since I didn't know how to cook, I should learn how to do that. And I took a 70% pay cut. It made no
Wow.
sense rationally, but I could feel it, and it was the first leap that I took that was sort of beyond the intellect and beyond my mind, but I knew. And through the years, we continued to grow our family business. I was CEO of it and became really involved in community and how we could leverage our business to support the people and state and world that we live in. And had the privilege of joining many boards and, serving in different capacities within government as an appointee.
Mm.
And just continued to sort of move forward. And then there was a space where, so I never finished college. I went to college and didn't finish. And in my head and in my family, I had severe anxiety, and I couldn't in school even get myself to go to class, which is why I ended up leaving. Work always connected for me.
Mm.
But eventually, as I grew more and more and became more and more involved in these high level organizations, these high level boards, I began to hear an old story of mine that I wasn't smart enough to be there.
Mm,
And so I started reading a ton, like insatiably, reading to try to give myself value. And so I would read so much nonfiction about everything. I mean, I don't even know. Reading about genes, I'm reading about history, like I'm reading everything I can get my hands on
mm,
for about 5 years. And in doing so, completely squashed the other aspect of my life that had kind of been driving a little bit behind the scenes and enabling me to take leaps. So that sort of more spiritual self, I was like kicking it further and further away from this new world that I was building of success and achievement, and really, in retrospect, something that was insatiable because
mm.
I think I was trying to find my own value through it. And it
Yeah.
didn't matter what award I received or whether I was, I'm now the chair of a board of a college. Like none of those things mattered in the end to how I felt about myself. And I was so happy to um, sort of begin to feel that spirit again. Actually, when my stepfather had Alzheimer's, which he had it for 12 years, because I
Wow.
started to connect with him in a different way that was intangible. And that sort of started me on this path. But yeah, that's my sort of CEO and leadership journey, which continues to a certain degree today,
Mm.
but now in tandem with the other.
So was it your stepfather's illness and that got you into or opened your eyes to spirituality and an alternative way of being? Was that the catalyst for you?
Yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. So, in December of 2019, in our community, we had a Sister of Mercy who was a community leader, and I would see her maybe twice a year. We'd speak pleasantries for 2 minutes, but she called me in 2019 and said, I need to talk to you urgently. She said, you are coming up in my prayers. You have been for the past couple months, and I just thought you needed some additional blessing. But now you're coming up in my prayers morning, noon, and night. And I feel the need to ask you, is there something in your life that you're not paying attention to?
Wow.
And I was just like, I don't know. I'm great. I'm busy. I'm on 7 boards. I'm CEO. I've got a daughter. I'm like running around, but I'm all good. That was that those are that's an example of indicators that happen in your life, and all these people saying, "How do you do what you do?" And I'm just like, I don't know. It's great. I didn't acknowledge any of it until yes, my stepfather had Alzheimer's for 12 years. I would feel magnetized to him. And he was an attorney, really cerebral. He was a senator here in our state. Um, and during his life, he and I were both very strong-willed. And
Mm,
and so there was tension between us until the Alzheimer's started to remove certain parts of him, and the spirit and soulfulness started to shine. And that's what I
mm,
connected with. And I didn't really understand it. I would be sitting in my office and just feel drawn to him, and I would need to go see him. And I felt drawn one day, and it was the last day that he was in his house. And he went into hospice for 12 days, and my mom was there all the time. I was driving back and forth about 20 minutes listening to the instrumental from the soundtrack, the Titanic movie, which
okay.
sounds super ominous, but I just wanted to feel it because I
Mm,
had felt his spirit. I wanted to be in that space. And he passed away. And that night I drove back to my house and I was pulling onto my street, listening to my Titanic music, and then said to myself, I need to change the channel. So I had just been to a Lumineers concert. So I changed the channel, and my radio screen said the Lumineers and their song Ophelia. But that was not the song that started playing through the speakers. It was Frank Sinatra's My Way.
oh,
And it said, and now the end is near, so I face the final curtain. And I felt the same spirit that I had felt with my stepfather wash over me. And I sat in front of the garage, music blaring, tears pouring down my cheeks, knowing that he was communicating with me. And
Yeah.
that next few weeks, I would see him in my dreams. He came to me and told me he was with my mom in the kitchen. The next day, I told her, and she said it was the first time I made dinner for myself. And later that year, my mom, who's a scientist, was reading a ton of books on the afterlife and actually connected, like felt connected with this medium who she'd never met, who was in Arizona. And I bought her a session with this medium who had a 7 month waiting list. So on Christmas Eve that year, my mom gets on the phone with this medium, and the medium says, "There is a gentleman here, and he is singing. Does Frank Sinatra's My Way mean anything to you?" And that right there, even though throughout that year I had gotten Reiki certified, I had started to, because I knew something, there was something more that I couldn't touch, but I was really quiet about it. But once I got that validation, it opened up a flood of words, middle of the night thoughts, translation of energy, people. It just, and it continues to expand to this day. And it's been about 4 years. But that sort of hearing my stepfather and then the validation gave me the courage, I guess, to sort of come out and be who I am,
Yeah.
which today to me is a true integration of sort of all of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So this is, I mean, what a beautiful story. It's absolute chills listening to you
Mm,
talk about that. And I find it, I think it, a lot of people find it very comforting. These afterlife stories are really comforting. And, I have a very strong belief, as anyone who regularly listens to me knows, that, that the spirit stays around, and it has this amazing capacity to be everywhere all at once.
totally.
So, your father spirit can be watching everybody and enjoying everything all at once. And
Oh.
it's just such a comforting idea.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I think it's a really meaningful part of getting into spirituality, because so much of us, of our lives, we live in fear. Now, what's the ultimate fear? Death. If we don't fear death, then what is there to fear? Judgment and pain, I guess. But, like, temporary pain, judgment, who cares? I
Yeah,
mean, some people
absolutely.
do, but we try not to.
Mhm.
Um, so this is an amazing. And so from this moment, so you carried on. Are you still the CEO? Because looked at your website,
Mhm.
and you have become a poet, and you are a guide. You offer sessions to people. Um, so how did that come about? The
Mhm.
guide part and the offering
Mhm.
people sessions, and what do you offer within that?
Such a good question. That took a little bit of time, because
Mm,
initially, I was receiving words. That's the only way I can say it, because sometimes I don't remember them in the morning. And initially, when they were coming through, they would use words like hearken, like words that I don't use in my regular vocabulary.
yes.
Um, and so that started, and I was getting so many that I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, but no one knows this about me. I'm
Mm,
out there leading in the business, leading in the community, and no one knows this. So I started an Instagram page, Dear Joy Love, where I just would randomly select one every day. Um, and as I started opening up to more and more people, and not only people in my, circle of friends and family, but people, philanthropists, other CEOs, politicians, as I started to share this Dear Joy Love page, what was happening, they started to follow along with me. What shocked me was the number of people who actually do align with this. Because we all walk around and we all think that everyone else, like that no one is like ourselves. We just see what they sort of present to the world. And
hmm
what shocked me was I truly 95% of them were just fascinated, had had experiences themselves, and are now on this journey with me.
Yeah.
And as that started, I started to notice that what I would do just in conversation, because essentially, and what I feel that I'm doing is because I can feel energy as we all do, my space is to translate that energy into words. So, and that is, I'm doing that in the middle of the night. I'm doing that when people have passed. I am doing that even as I was sitting with these friends, colleagues, etc. And
Mm,
what I was receiving and what I was hearing was bigger than me. Like I had to almost get out of the way. It's not that I was
mm,
channeling exactly, but I almost have to get out of the way because this is what is meant to come through at that
mm,
moment.
mm,
And so, that happened more and more. And eventually I realized that this was something that I really needed to offer beyond sort of my community and sphere because I had always, whenever I would give a speech, I would write it in flow. And so I
mm,
was
mm.
known as like this amazing speaker. But the reason is because it was like coming
Just
through
coming
me.
through, yeah.
And so I knew that that feeling that audiences would get, or the feeling that people were feeling when they would, you know, talk to me after my translation of their energy, I realized that I really kind of am a mirror for the beauty in all of us, and we all are for each other,
Mm,
but that I wanted to just make that available and possible for everyone to see themselves
mm.
as I now see everyone and
Yeah,
everything.
I'm with you. Wow. So do you acknowledge, do you name as, not as in give them a name, but do you name this as guide, spirit guide? Because a lot of people I know and I talk to have very similar to you. They have songs, they have words, they have messages come through. They don't know where it's come from, and it's like, no, these are my guides. These are
Hmm.
my guides giving me this, and it's channeling
Yeah.
through. Do you name it as such?
Hmm. Hmm.
Mm,
I don't. And I do know
mm,
and I think in the early days, I probably did use those terms. For me, it's too small for me in that I get very easily attached. It's probably sort of where my anxiety, like I can get into the like detail and weeds of things,
mm,
and leaving it open for me because sometimes, you know, I will I will watch, like I watched the movie Maestro about Leonard Bernstein, and
mm.
that night had 15 poems from the energy and voice of Leonard Bernstein. I had a friend who sadly took her own life, and 3 days after, I received words all about that moment and all about what she was leaving and why and how she felt now. The Sister of
Wow.
Mercy, who I talked about, who said something I wasn't paying attention to. One morning at 4 a.m., I wrote a poem. A poem came through about I was walking this woman through this sort of rose covered pathway. And at the end of it, she turned around, handed me a rose, and told me it was my turn. I had no idea Sister Janice was at the end of her life, but 4 hours later, after receiving that poem, 4 hours later, she passed away.
Oh, wow.
So I don't name it.
Yes, yeah,
Be
now I see what you mean. It's coming from all different directions. It's not just one
y-
specific channel that's speaking through you. It's like,
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh my word, how extraordinary to
Hmm.
be able to open yourself up to that. And the thing is that I fully believe that we're all capable of this connection with energy.
Yeah.
Um, and some people it just kind of falls in their lap, and other people work at it. And
Mhm.
it's probably not a good idea to work at it because those kind of things never come if you really push it.
Mhm.
I've one I like I have songs. Oh God,
Mhm.
songs come into my head. Like last night, I was woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning with this song. Would it leave my head? No, it would not. Could I work out what it meant? I thought if I could work out what it meant, I could go back to sleep. No, it's still in my head. And I'm now like, oh my God, 2 o'clock this morning, it's still going to be there. And I've still got to work out what it means.
Oh my gosh, it's so true though. I get that as well. And
Yeah.
they really are like even something as, you know, seemingly inane as that is absolutely something, especially when it keeps on coming. So you're
Mm,
like, you can't avoid it. You can't
yeah.
get past it because it really is calling for your attention. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love
Listen,
that.
there's a point that you made that I want to come back to because I think
Hmm.
this is really important. You said like you were having all of this kind of growth, transformation, awakening, and you were like, I can't really tell anybody else about it because they're going to think that I've gone doolally. And then when you do open up, people are actually really open to it. And this is the absolute magic. And this is what I'm really passionate about. My mission. I really feel like I'm on a mission at the moment. I really want people to understand the chakra system because I think it opens people up to understanding their energetic body and opens them up to so much more understanding and awareness of themselves and therefore peace, fulfillment, etc., etc.
Hmm.
Um, and getting people to just have the conversation. If I go out for lunch or if I go anywhere, and when you go to a dinner party or something, you're sitting next to some old dude and you're like, they don't want to know what and I wade in there. And I am constantly amazed because I know always used to thought, oh, I'm just going to have to listen to this guy talk about his own, whatever for the next hour or whatever, and not mention what my work is. But now I just wade in there, and 9 times out of 10, they are fascinated. They actually maybe know a little something about it. They are aligned, they are open. People are really fascinated. And I think, that sitting, when you meet somebody for the first time, or, even people who you've known for a little while, and you actually begin to open up a conversation about spirituality, about awakening, about the wider, bigger questions, very few people are not up for that conversation, even if they don't believe, because they then want to argue with you. So then
Yeah.
that's a great time. That's a good
Yes.
conversation. But
Totally.
having that conversation is what we all need to be doing.
Yeah. I mean, because the truth is, if it lives within us, which certainly chakras, energy, I mean, I think we do accept that this world is energy. And so
Mm,
um it's something that lives within us so that when you're wading into that conversation, whether someone intellectually agrees, understands or not, it's tapping something energetically that they recognize. And
yeah.
for that 1 out of 10 person who is like puts up their hands and is like, stop. I mean, that's just fear, and
Mm,
when we all of us experience fear and understand that. But I really do think that it connects, even if someone doesn't really understand why it
yeah.
connects, it like
Yeah.
starts to open it and
Yeah.
starts to shift. So I
Yeah.
love that you do that at a dinner party.
Yeah. No, I mean, I remember there was a time, it was this years and years and years ago, when I was just beginning to work with the chakras, and I tried to explain it to this guy, and he's a sports dude, cricketer actually, um, and quite well known and all the rest of it. And I explained it to him, and he just literally went, "It's all just a load of nonsense," and turned his back on me, and that really crushed me for quite some
Mhm.
time because I was
Yeah.
like, "No, if I can get through to somebody who has made a living using their body,
Yeah.
to create their work. Like, why aren't you interested in this?" This is
Right.
nuts to
Oh.
me. But yeah, it is. And I think if we can, so back to the point that I made right at the beginning, which is like, even if you are a CEO, you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to run a business, and
Mhm.
you're trying to come across professional and polished and like you know what you're doing and you've got your stuff together and all of that kind of stuff, this still has such a deep place.
Yeah.
And I really believe that, when you're trying to be professional, it's not always the thing that actually really connects you to somebody. I mean, yeah, if you're working for a massive corporation, you kind of need to come off professional. That's what's
Mhm.
expected. But if
Yeah.
you're an entrepreneur, if you're doing something that you feel passionately about and you just think, oh, I can't do this because it needs to be perfect, or I can't bring this aspect of my life or myself or my into it, then you're cutting off a part of yourself, which is probably the bit that actually needs to be put out there, because that's what's going to connect with your
Absolutely.
potential customer, right?
Yes. Well, and I think that we, at least speaking for me in sort of business and, boards, because I'm on the boards of for-profit and nonprofit companies, but, you know, I often had this idea of what was valuable. So when
Mm,
we're in a business sense, you have this idea of what is valuable. And what's interesting is I've found is that often what we find valuable is what other people have that we think we don't. So I minimized the things that I do well, which is the things that I do well is connect with people because I have this soulful space. So connecting with people and communication is what I do well. I understand people because I can feel
mm,
them. But I would look at the people who were much smarter than me in sort of financial detail or venture capital or all these other spaces, and I would say, "Oh my gosh, I don't have that. Like I'm chairing this board, but I don't really know. I don't have that." I have finally realized that this space in profession, so the communication, like the welcoming, the wholeness, the we're all in this together, is
mm.
actually equally as valuable. Even
Oh,
in
yeah.
even in business, and even in the
Yeah.
top echelons of anything, we all hold what we all hold is unique and uniquely positioned in the things that we're sort of seated at. But it's really easy to think we have to be one thing or another. And
Mm,
so my hope now is that, I absolutely have an intellectual side. Like, and if that's not satisfied, if I'm not sort of challenging myself, that's not a great space for me either. Like, I really do have a balance, as we all do, of all the parts. And
mm,
for me, it's showing up whole. So, being able to identify the problems with a balance sheet and in the next breath, talk about the things we all feel that are difficult, that we need to sort of overcome to move ourselves forward. Like
mm.
all of it matters. And so hopefully the more whole we are, the more whole you are, even as you're sitting with the cricketer who is like, you're I don't even resonate with anything you're saying. Just that wholeness, just that courage to
Mm,
be all of yourself might have given that cricketer a little bit of courage to
mm,
recognize things that he or she is hiding from. And
mm.
so that's my hope now, because I really think we all sort of move around each other and our energies are interacting, they're collisions. And so new things are born from those collisions. And we have no idea what that might be for another person, but there's
Yeah.
impact. Hmm.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I have to confess, I've never been in the big bad world of business. I've never worked for a corporation or had a kind of career as such in an industry that would be seen as business-like. I've never bought a business suit and got on the train
Hmm.
to go to work. Um, but even from the place where I sit, I can see that the from experiencing other people, and my husband's especially, that the personal connections, the relationships, the energies between people are actually at the heart of everything. You know, like all of the number crunching and the planning and the strategy and the marketing and the whatever else, not HR, but
Yes.
all of that.
Yes.
It can all be done. That's not a problem. The problem always is personality clash, power struggle,
Mhm.
who's got the bigger whatever,
Yeah. Yes.
you
Totally.
know,
Yes.
the salary, car, ego. It's
Hmm.
competitive and it's very much, it's kind of like that growth. Everything's got bigger,
Yeah.
bigger, 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 which is
Mhm.
terrifying because how big can you get? I mean, I
Yeah.
know the universe is expanding into infinitesimal, infinite
Yes.
infinity, but even so,
Yeah.
how much bigger can you force yourself to be?
Mhm.
What is actually really important is the health and happiness. Like if your workforce is happy, if they
Yes.
get on, if there's a good atmosphere, like
Yeah.
even here at my house, building site, minimum 3, 4 guys on site every day,
Hmm.
the atmosphere ebbs and flows. And sometimes when my husband, for example, who's kind of project managing, when he's having a bad day and he's grumpy, the whole site goes, "Ugh," the energy. I come into the house, having been out to teach something, I'm like, oh, it's awfully quiet in here. I need to go and pep everybody up. Whoop, whoop, come on, everybody. But when the energy's going and the music's loud and that everyone's laughing, that's when the good magic happens. That's when production happens. It's so down to energy. Everything is down to energy. So this is such a beautiful marriage that you have
Mhm.
of this intellect and the spirituality. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. Strategy and spirituality.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, at the end of the day, I think that's what we are. When you think of sort of matter and soul, you know what I mean? We are these
Yeah.
bodies that, our bodies are sort of the instrument to experience as a soul from my belief system. And so,
Mm,
um, as I look at even the most stodgy corporate structure, that too is just an instrument.
yeah.
And what do we want? How do we want to employ that instrument? So, even in business and even in the power, that's how I view it now. And I wonder, as I look at my old self and look at the person who just kept wanting to achieve more and more and more and more and more and more and more, you know, I also did have to take some space, which is what you offer, to really sit with myself and my body and start to listen to me. I
Mm,
think before I could sort of start listening to the entire world around me, I think I had to hear myself first. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I think it's, yeah, I mean, you make a beautiful and very valid point. But I want to think about, so I have in my mind's eye, you know, 30-something-year-old woman who lives in California,
Mm-hmm.
who is wanting to succeed, wants to have the beautiful things, wants to live in a beautiful house, nothing wrong with that, wants to drive a gorgeous car,
Mm-hmm.
um, and is trying to push themselves in business, whatever it is, I don't know, real estate or whatever. Um, but also there's this other side that's drawn her to this podcast. It's going, actually, I need to know how I can marry these two. What's your advice for that, sort of for really getting to be okay with wanting to be a success, because there is nothing wrong with that at all. The more success, the more people share, the more, it's an outward flow of
Mm-hmm.
goodness.
Mm-hmm.
How do we balance that
Mm-hmm.
you've been there, done
Yeah.
that?
I often ask myself that question, and I will say this because I just think I want to offer it because I would imagine that some people would posit that it is easy for someone like me at 53 years old, going through this, 49 and 50, who had established themselves. So I had already established myself. So I
Mm,
already had a voice and reputation and leadership, etc. So that now it's somewhat easy for me to bring in these pieces. And if
mm-hmm,
these pieces had come in at the age of 30, would I still be here. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say that first because I think that's something that I personally have spent some time really thinking about.
Mm,
And I believe the answer is yes. And I think what's important as you are looking at success and spirituality is that you work to subscribe to your own story, not the story of someone else. I think the more we truly
mm,
subscribe to our own story, the more we're
yeah.
going to get to where we want to get. And if that means success and a nice car and a nice house, you're going to get there because that's your story. But you don't have to do it by sacrificing who you are and by subscribing to someone else's. I really believe that opportunity is available to all of us. I think that energy does beget energy. The more the more we subscribe to another story, the more it's fear-based.
Mm,
And that brings in an energy that, at least for me, caused me to sort of push aside some of the most beautiful aspects of me,
mm,
so that I can speak business speak in a really cerebral way. And candidly, it doesn't feel as good for me. And I also know it's not received as well. I've been
mm,
able to sort of watch that. When I am speaking from a truly aligned place, carrying all the parts, it's both feels good for me and is received better on the other side. So I think it's about the narrative we tell ourselves. And I think the greatest success comes in being who you are meant to be on this earth.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't mean sacrificing, it
No.
means being even bigger.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, that's going to be my next question is, it's very easy to say, success equals nice things, big house,
Yeah.
lovely car. And there are so many people who get to that place and then are just empty and just go, I'm still unhappy. I'm still not in a fulfilling relationship. I still don't have friends. I don't feel like I've made it.
Yeah.
And we've all had that small glimpse of that.
Hmm.
For me, as at school,
Hmm.
when you've got a big set of exams coming up and you think, oh my God, it's all just going to be so amazing. I'm
Hmm.
going to feel so good when all the exams are over. And then the exam's over and you just feel flat and
Yes.
there's just nothing. Ugh. It's
Yeah.
just
Totally.
so we've all had a little share of
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And so I think that really working out what success looks like. And it might look like a big house and a car. That might be the thing that actually
Yeah.
really feeds your soul, but
Yeah.
it might not be. It might be that actually that authentic connection of making a difference in your
Yeah.
community, of just learning more, growing more, becoming better, creating better products, doing good things for the planet. Like whatever your version of success is.
Yeah.
The question that I love asking people is a really basic one that everybody plays around the dinner table. Is like, if you won the lottery, if money was no object, what would you do? Okay,
Mm.
let's get out of the way the 4-month holiday and the paying off all your debts, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, money object, what do you do with your day? What do you get up and when you get up, what do you want to do with your day? Because you can't just mess around in the swimming pool all
Hmm.
day that you've
Hmm.
bought for yourself.
Hmm.
That's boring. After a
Yeah.
few weeks, that would be dull.
Yes.
So, what is it that's actually going to really fulfill you?
Right.
That, if you can end up doing that, oh my God, that's success
Yes.
in my view.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And it actually speaks to um we have this idea that there's this end, that there's this like space of enlightenment even, or space
Mm.
of success, or this
Sort
like
of
end
completion
point.
almost.
Yes, and there
Yeah.
never is.
No.
So success is just the here and now.
Yeah.
Success is this moment, and you illustrated that so beautifully. It's what you carry and hold and what you're doing and being at this moment
Mm.
that is the definition of success.
Mm.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think, and you and I will attest to, our priorities in life do change. You start off as a keen 20-something-year-old going, I'm gonna rule the world. And then by 50, you're like, no, I really don't want to rule the world. Somebody else can do that. Some other idiot can do that. I'm just going to make my corner of the universe good and spread as much love or whatever,
Totally. Yes,
as
I
I
know.
can.
It is. It's such an interesting trajectory. And I
Mm,
actually think of life in that way because I think of life almost like a circle. And we start out at one point like totally unencumbered. And then we
mm,
spend the first half of life layering experience, layering things, layering identity. And then we get to this point at the top and we're like, oh, wait a minute. And so then we spend the latter half delayering,
yeah.
taking away the things that
Yeah.
we've
None,
accumulated
none of that
until we
stuff
end up,
matters.
yeah,
Yeah.
until we end up where we started in some
Yeah.
ways. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's true. But that realization, if you can have that realization sooner rather than later and not wait until you get to the age of
So
50,
true.
so much more fulfillment in your life and happiness. And I always get so excited when I have a client who is young. Like I've got a client at the moment who is literally she's like 22, and I'm just like, this is just so amazing that you're doing this work now. How did you find, also it's a beautiful thing and I love that. And, when I talk to other people on the podcast, really wise women in their 30s, the women
Yes.
in their 30s at the moment are just absolutely killing it. And I'm so impressed and just like, just let's raise you up because you girls are
Yes.
strong.
I agree. And brave. Like I
Yes.
see people making brave moves that I don't know I would have made at that
Yeah.
age. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally
Yeah.
would. Gives us hope.
It does.
Yeah.
And, but why don't we take a little credit? Well, you can take some credit for paving the way for them.
And you as well. Yes.
I don't know. I wasn't out there in business really, but yeah. And just the last little bit about your poetry.
Yeah.
You've got two collections of poems that you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
created. And it feels to me like when you were talking about it before, you say, "Oh, this poem just arrived."
Yeah.
Are you not taking credit for these poems? Are they literally just arriving? I mean, they came
I
through.
feel like there's this universal something that we all have access to, whether that's consciousness, energy. And I feel like I am just tapping into something that's universal among
Hmm.
us. So, yes, I am the person who was able to reach up and grab it,
Hmm.
but I don't feel like they're mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair
Um,
enough. I love
yeah,
that.
that's how I feel. So yes, they're in these two books because I just heard and knew that that's what I was supposed to do with them. But they're really, this type of stuff, just like music, is for all of us.
Absolutely.
They're mine, but they're not mine. Yeah,
Okay. Do you have your books there?
I have one.
Can we have
Yes,
a, will you read
of
me a poem?
of course. Oh my gosh.
Wise stars.
Wise stars. Yes, I would. Thank you for asking. Oh, I would
That's
love
all
to.
right.
Let's see. I'll read you the first one.
Okay.
Um, okay, deep in the natural world lies an invisible web, a connector of sorts, a sheath of commonality and understanding that binds a species together. From the fungi beneath the ground sharing energy with the trees, to the language that ensures birds fly in perfect formation, to the knowledge that supports pools of fish in finding their way home. There is a bonding, a sensing, a knowing that cannot be seen and cannot be heard. It simply, majestically is. Considering the nature of humankind, would we not have a similar web of invisibility, one that fastens us as a collective despite our propensity toward separation? If we set aside our competitiveness, judgment, self righteousness, would we not unburden ourselves and free the web to weave? The hubris of humankind is a magnificent barrier, a barrier to the extraordinary wonder of the natural world and our place in it. Every invisible web binds us together, every last one. My greatest hope for the new year is that we finally begin to recognize it.
Hmm.
Thank you for asking. Yeah,
Yeah, thank you. Beautiful poem.
thank
Really, it's just truth.
you.
Absolute truth.
Mm,
Beautiful.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Whew, well, that was beautiful. Thank you. And such a nice way for us to finish. So before we go, tell people how they can reach out to you, how they can buy your poetry books, and how they can maybe even have a session with you or
Mm,
employ you as a speaker, whichever they
thank you
choose.
for that. So my books can be purchased on Amazon. I also have my Instagram page, Dear Joy Love, where I share poetry and thought leadership pretty
I'm
frequently.
definitely following you on Instagram.
Thank you. And my website, which is sarasbyers.com. But thank you. It's been such a joy to speak with you. And the second that I heard your podcast and your voice, I was taken to a different place. I felt immediate peace and calm, and I'm so happy that we are connected. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here today.